hello everyone. Yeah, very warm welcome to all of you, our fellow online travelers. Thank you for sharing your valuable screen time with us for the second edition of Open House Online Talks, which are held in conjunction with our current exhibition, Image and Power, zooming into Zeppelin photography, on view until April 2026, so plenty of time to go see it. Before I introduce our wonderful guests today and our AI slayers, Anna Ehrenstein and Neïl Beloufa, thank you to both of you for being here. I'd like to share a few words on this exhibition, which really serves as a starting point for this today's conversation on AI in the arts. So Image and Power explores how Zeppelin photography has been used since the early 20th century as a tool of propaganda across very different political systems, the German Empire, the Weimar Republic, but also the National Socialism. But it also asks how these visual strategies continue to influence us today. And together with contemporary art, which has been made especially for this show, the exhibition raises urgent questions around the power of images, but also the technologies by which they are being made, especially artificial intelligence. So, how does AI shape our understanding of reality and history, and how can AI in the arts be used to empower marginalized perspectives and voices? Or does it, through its inherent biases, automatically reinforce power hierarchies? And these are some of the questions I would love to discuss today with Anna and Neïl, two very outstanding voices in this field. With Neïl Beloufa, we have one of the participating artists from the exhibition. And Neïl Beloufa's artistic research focuses on contemporary society and how it represented and mediated by digital interaction, often with the aim of exposing the underlying control mechanisms. And in his videos, his feature films, his sculptures and installations, Neïl plays on the viewer's sensory experience, inviting us to reappraise our own beliefs and stereotypes. And he addresses present day issues that range from power relationships to digital surveillance to data collection and nationalist ideologies to identity and a post colonial understanding of the world. And with Anna Ehrenstein, we are thrilled to bring in an external perspective to enrich this dialogue started with the exhibition. Anna Ehrenstein is an Albanian German artist of Turkish and Egyptian heritage whose practice navigates diasporic knowledge, creolization, and digital materiality through vivid sculptural and virtual installations, some of which you will get to know today. Working with lens-based media, AI, social practice, and what she calls precarious assemblages, Anna challenges technological hegemonies and author-subject hierarchies through very collaborative methods rooted in South alliances and spiritual coalition. Raised between Germany and Albania, her trans-Ottoman lineage informs a speculative approach that merges critical theory with Islamic proto-science fiction and is based on her research as a professor and educator. I'm extremely thrilled that you two have come together here in this online format to explore some pressing questions around AI in the arts. And both of you have prepared some short inputs of around 10 minutes, which will be sort of the departure point for our conversation. And that conversation will also eventually be opened up to all of you in the audience. So I would say let's dive right in it. And I look forward to your presentations. Thank you. Anna, would you like to begin?
Sure, I was like, do we have a? No, we don't. Hey, thank you so much for the introduction. Hey, Neil, good to see y'all. Happy that you're here. I am going to share my screen in a second, and it is here. And hopefully give you, in this short input, a bit of an idea of how I, as an artist, use AI and try to not only replicate dominant techno-social structures, but also intervene in them. I am in this short input, drawing on collaborative practices where I worked in Johannesburg. I worked in a trans-Ottoman living archive, and I am currently in an ongoing research project between Berlin, Nairobi, and Alexandria that I want to speak about. Shortly, I would definitely say, as you already mentioned in your intro, that I do not approach AI as a neutral tool, but as an historically and geopolitically embedded system. And I ask, what would it take for AI in art to be situated, to be resistant and speculative? AI, as any other cosmotechnic, and the definition by Yukui, is the unification of the cosmic order and moral order through technical activities, meaning that technology is always grounded in culturally specific cosmologies rather than being universally neutral or singular. So also automation is embedded in the histories and hierarchies of its time. Rather than assuming neutrality, both AI and how we use it in art are shaped by the conditions of their production, cultural, historical, and economic. They reproduce bias, but they also hold space for interruption and reimagination. Um, I often get to hear the question whether AI can be used for good or AI is good, but how AI is an infrastructure, so it can be strategically misused, corrupted, or reauthored from situated perspectives. Since intelligence in itself is always social and situated, then what we can do and what we can call AI might be less artificial than it is colonial, extractive, and haunted. And as artists, we are not outside these systems, but I hope we can make their ghosts visible. Um, AI systems do not exist outside the world we live in. They are trained in the world we live in. So the data we feed into machine learning systems are archives of injustice. They're shaped by colonial legacies, by racial capitalism, by gender hierarchies, by resource extraction. These systems are made possible through the invisible labor of workers, labeling, tracing, tagging, verifying, often within Global South context and through rare air minerals mined under exploitative conditions. So while this is a global phenomenon, there's a specific historical reason why there is locations within the Global South that are being used for the extraction of human power, of earth power. And one of the projects where I used AI in a form of, there's an art historian, Sir John, in the 1920s who coined the vocabulary of a vindicationist tradition. And the idea of the vindicationist tradition was mostly that people in the Negritude movement, Black writers in the 1920s, used the stereotypes people have claimed upon them, the racist stereotypes, and they kind of made them bigger. And in this making them bigger, they kind of dismantled them. So this actually all the strategies we have in hip hop culture and Black culture that has moved through other cultures comes from also this vindicationist tradition of the Negritude movement. And the collaboration that I'm showing you right now is based on this idea of effective um, of an effective strategy of grandeur. The project is called Show Me, and it was a collaboration with South African artist Mahube Diseko and Brian Wansiwa. And it examines how queerness is both hypervisible and endangered in algorithmically mediated environments, and how that strengthens within a global South context. So what you see here on the right side is like these zombie queers. Is that we use the case study of the only Black queer African that has a TV series, like a Netflix series on Netflix, and he's called La Sizwe, and he kind of embodies everything that is problematic if you would direct it. And we use this multi-channel video and sculpture installation to investigate how platforms and recommendation systems commodify queer aesthetics, even while queer bodies remain subject to violence and erasure. So it's kind of a critique of necropolitical automation, which means systems extract affect while reproducing structural harm, and of the so-called neutrality of design aesthetics in digital spaces. So the space that you see here is that we coded an algorithm that would screenshot from all the big tech platforms. If you put in queer, if you put in LGBTQIA, and then kind of fed a gun to reproduce these images. And you see like, I got one really bad critique for the show. And the critique said that my show reproduces rainbows until you have to vomit. And I thought that was actually quite funny because that's the whole point. Like the whole point is that we're using the AI to show up a problem, show up how Silicon Valley is reproducing imagined inevitabilities. They say it's inevitable for us to structure the conversation in the way we're structuring it. And we only cater to demand. And the only thing that tells us what to do is capitalism. And I think these inevitabilities they're talking about, they're actually imagined. And in overpainting it, it's a form of emphasis of kind of like assemblaging and partially fragmenting their lingo. The second project that I'm showing you briefly is a video art project I did last year in collaboration with the Ottoman sexual researcher called Irvin Cemilshik. He gave me access to his vast archive of erotic paintings, images from the late Ottoman Empire that are very queer, that are very sex positive. And these materials are obscured by colonial and moralist readings. But in the collaboration, they're treated as dynamic voices whose desires and silences speak across time and also across Islam's multiplicity. So with using an image to video AI, these archival materials are reanimated into visual languages. And I'm the future friend of this archive. So I'm kind of using and remixing futures that were never meant to survive. It was shaped collaboratively with Mohammed Amjahid and Orhun Mersin and Monira Daniels. And I'll just show you a brief excerpt from the video work, just that you have an idea on how it's actually an hour work, but I'll show you 2 minutes. In the Greek tradition, Cassiopeia is imagined as the queen boasting of her beauty. It's telling me my screen sharing is paused. Is it?
Yes, I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah.
I think it's frozen actually.
Frozen. Okay,
Maybe do you want to try it again?
Share again, right? Let's bring it up again. Share. And did you see anything from the beginning?
Yes, that looks great. Perfect.
In the Greek tradition, Cassiopeia is imagined as the queen boasting of her beauty, whereas in our Arab tradition, we see her as a dignified woman, seated with composure. Al-Sufi, the Book of Fixed Stars.
Eine lange, wichtige Tradition hat, die man als Befreiung wiederentdeckt. Weil oft wird ja gesagt, Reformation, so, weißt du, so eurozentrisch, was Neues oder aus von den White People irgendwie lernen. In dem Fall wäre es eine Befreiung des frühen Islams auch wieder zu entdecken.
Do you place more responsibility on the boys than the girls, or is it the girls and the boys?
I treat my children equally.
Asr, the time of the age, can denote a time or epoch or a moment of significance, and it is famously used in Surah Al-Asr. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. By the time, indeed, mankind is in loss, except for those who have believed and done righteous deeds and advised each other to the truth. Dar refers to the eternal, unchanging aspect of time that transcends the material world.
All right. So, I think I have to share again. Let me share again, put it on full screen. Yeah, so I think this is an example for me to see how you can have a conversation with knowledge that has been marginalized in its time, and you can use AI to create a reactivation and not to preserve, but actually to nurture a form of solidarity and an alliance between you and an archive. So, of course, a critique of archives that AI is using doesn't automatically mean that you cannot also decide how to form archives and how to bind them. And the last project I want to show you is a project I'm currently working on, and I'll just briefly speak about what we're doing. So I'm working with Ariana Dongus and local activists like Mofat Okinyi in Nairobi and Alexandria to investigate the entangled histories of digital labor and data colonialism and platform capitalism, Kenya and Egypt, as well as many other places within the global south. In the Middle East, there was the term coined of the so-called startup spring. Are basically sites of invisible AI labor. It goes as far as producing gig workers in refugee camps, but that's another story. But in general, workers tagging data for global tech firms while remaining excluded from the authorship or the recognition is a major issue that we're having. So we are currently working on a research project that is going to have its first show in March 2026, where we work together with data workers to create a speculative vocabulary rooted in what we call natural automation, not artificial intelligence, but intelligences rooted in a social context, drawing on field work. The project examines how AI systems extend colonial patterns of exploitation under the guise of development and humanitarian intervention, but also how the invisible agents are actually essential and self-determined producers of knowledge. So I think it's very important in when we critique these systems or critique how capitalism and race reinforce extractivism, that the people that live in these conditions are not passive agents, and that there's many forms of micro revolutions that you can do. And in my last slide, to sum up my little input, is there a possibility for AI art to actually be subversive? I mean, I think the bigger question is there a possibility for anything to be subversive in this world right now? I don't know, but I think there's little actions we can do. I think often AI in art is aestheticized as something whether super utopian or super dystopian. And we have like the techno optimists gang and like graphic Anadol and the Mandem and being like, AI is going to change everything because it's so pretty. And then we have the whatever Hito style gang, and they're all like, AI and techno determinism is all going to ruin and kill us. And I think if we could have a contradictory, care-driven, and uncomfortable relationship to AI, we could foreground the messiness of collaboration, the friction of situated critique, politics of refusal. Then we could see that technology is something we mold, and maybe we work with strategies of opacity, of misalignment, of remix, and then we see that intelligence might not be something we own or control, but something we can inherit and we can corrupt and shape together and rehearse maybe other ways of being together with machines. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anna. Lots of food for thought. I'm inviting Neïl to continue, and then we open this conversation up.
Hello. Thank you for having me. Before I start, I'm supposed to be an artist, and so politically and technically, I'm decorative at best. And each time something scares me, I try to practice it in order to understand limitation and the positions to hold. Basically, what I kept criticizing smartphones or social network, and now I have a smartphone and I have social networks and I rely on them. So that strategy of discourse around it from the intellectual class led to a full domination because we didn't touch, in a way, I think. And then now I keep complaining about systems that I try to not use. So with my colleagues, we tried to find a different position, which is not really artistic, but we use it through art, which was like to learn, make infrastructures, and become a research lab, a technical one. So I'm going to show what the base of it, and this allowed us actually to experiment energy problems for real, a bias problem for real, to see if you can correct how it functions, and even like author rights problematics, and none of the response I thought I have work. But I don't have an answer to anything actually. I share my screen. So basically we started to make bad projections. And the projection, which is kind of happening, is that 80% of people don't care that the content is produced by a machine. And people use AI mostly for companionship. And it's 26% of American students that use it to make decisions. So it's a live feedback at a scale that is way bigger than social networks. It's permanent and invisible. And the other thing that is, and the military application of those systems, we saw them the last years with the targeting algorithms for Gaza that don't have human interaction in between. So it statistically says something is there, and it calculates the number of deaths for the number of stuff, and it goes at a pace and a speed that is crazy. And the last thing that is super violent with it is that it's the most centralized tools that humanity ever had. So few people control the planet. And it's actually a game of the winner takes all. So even the few people that have access to it are fighting to dominate the other. So like it's like a game of Highlander. So what we try to do is to see how we integrate those ecosystems, learn the vocabulary, and try stuff. So we created, so we have servers, and we created pipelines using AI. And what we try to do, I'll say after, but basically, we created a kind of system where we create a digital twin of audience, of people. So we get data, we do the data mining to see how it works. We take picture, we make a model of the person, we take all the biometric data. We make them visible. So am I honest, cynical, like personality data? And because we know where we distribute and the community we distribute in, we compare those data to a sociological database for the profile of the person. So with that, once we have that, we work with authors, artists, filmmakers, structures, so museums or stuff, to create authored data sets, projects, interactive project where the audience can integrate it. The idea of hyper customization is, in a way, that's more about art than AI, but that's the capacity that I think culture should get if we want to speak at the same celerity than social networks do. Like basically, people have tools that provide them dopamine and whisper personalized stuff for them. It was a way to see if we can do the same, but work with authors or critical distance and have the same drug to sell. So once we have a twin, so it's also a ticketing system for some places. Once we have that,
in our bustling cities,
we can integrate the viewer with a script within a project. So that's always, I'm the use case. That was with kids for the Olympics, based on the movie. We train model. And with that, we add systems of passive revenue. Because the only interest I see with technology is that if it finances a bit society, I mean, if it generates income that comes back. If not, I don't see really the point in a capitalist world of killing jobs without generating stuff. And maybe there is a possibility for a decentralized economy where you don't rely on the central power, but on users or visitors, because you sell them dopamine directly, and you don't have an intermediary for that. And maybe you can. So this is with a painter named Jill Muledi. With her, it's a book. So we generate a kind of Dorian Gray fiction she wrote, adapted to your psychology, and it's your me getting younger and younger. This one is with a filmmaker named Alain Guéraudy. So with him, he created a universe, a script on an island post-apocalyptic, and you choose the elements you go in with. I don't know if you know him, but his scripts are a bit specific. And we casted characters online to become actors on the island, and their personality, the way he writes character, was killing the models. For instance, he found stuff that the model couldn't do, which is interesting. Like one of his characters, like it's an island with 20 people and you enter it, but one of the characters was an nymphomaniac that solved problems with sex. But she couldn't do it because there is not enough people on long term on the island. So that character, for instance, the AI got lazy and refused to go through her because it was too risky as an output. So some stuff like that, or we had to cancel a POC system at the character at the beginning because it was going through a bias of making either whitening that person, either making that person more poor. So we learned what it can do, how we control, how we switch. So I show you. So it's at the end of that, what we distribute is both online and yeah. So the first iteration was roman photo because it's expensive to make videos. And so it's a small story of negotiation, and then we started to make people speak and make it iterations over iterations. So with that infrastructure done, we created system to distribute in spaces. So we use terminals and we get the data within the space. What interests us in the mechanic is that it shows how data work and how even a small decorative structure can manipulate them and target stuff. So in that show, people choose objects of consumption. They put likes, basically. It defines their personality. And at the end, they wait and they create their own startup. I'll show it after. But this creates, and the way we do it is that we delay generations to create engagement and to slow the carbon print. Basically, we reduced the energy consumption like towards really really low by making it super slow and choosing the time we use it. Yeah, so basically, and we make stuff where visitors present their own experience because we do their digital twin, and then they can play with the model in live. While this is connected to the book I showed you earlier. So you have a live stuff. And then you can print your marque page to have a link to your book in live. The idea of that is to standardize the process, to reduce the costs of it, because the only advantage with automation is that you can repeat in order to provide it to people. C'est au fond. Non, ça devait voir. I can show you how it's used in the results, and then I can show you what we have in the Zeppelin. So basically, the show where that was me using it, the show where we take the data. So the critical idea was like we started by a commercial zone where you put social capital on shitty object of consumption, from toilet paper to a Lamborghini or a fake artwork, and you make the price and the value of the object rise by choosing it. You choose the color, so it's like it flatters hyper individuality. Then you would participate in global economy by making tombstones of bankers of transaction go into a destruction machine, trying to destroy it. And the tombstone you would bet on it enters your data too. Here you had stuff that financed the operation, decorative stuff. You had artworks that you make clicks that start speaking and complain about their life as an unpaid
Don't you just hate it
workers.
when people speak of the real world? What does that even mean?
And then the last part was you were making speed dating with soldiers. Because we targeted soldiers through social networks for 2 years from 38 countries and interviewed them in a weird way. So you do that whole operation. The idea was to make an image, a live image of the way we live through social networks. Like you have pictures of genocide, then someone talking about yoga or talking about an opening. So the last room was the moment where you had the movie of the soldiers talking about conflict, actual conflict. And once you wait, your media is created, and I'm going to show you quick. You get to go on top of the global context and the soldiers to have your own media.
Zeus Energy Solutions,
which is about you having an idea and creating a startup. So it was a bit...
Apollo discovered an ancient scroll while backpacking, symbolizing his relentless pursuit of hidden truths and success in consultancy.
And it's
Have you ever
a meme joke.
Gods had a blueprint for our energy crisis? Imagine Zeus with a solar panel instead of a thunderbolt. Our mission at Zeus Energy Solutions is to harness the power of both renewable and non-renewable energy to create a sustainable future.
So it's a joke, but it's not a joke because it's a real planification of the creation of a startup to save the world, and that you put on top of the stuff. And the idea was to create that awkward moment where you are in the middle of a global context and try to intervene with your hyper-individualism. But it generates a spreadsheet, biography, strategy to integrate a market, and we try to make it a bit funny and stupid.
Carbon footprints.
Anyway, and with punchlines and
the cornerstone of our mission. My late grandmother always said, "Trust is earned, not given." Everything we do is for her. Trust Zeus Energy Solutions.
Zeus Energy Solutions, powering the future sustainably.
So that's the way we try to use it in a critical way. In Zeppelin, we made a machine that do propaganda over propaganda imagery. Basically, there is something that in today's world, critical distance. I mean, everything becomes promotion. Like memes of J.D. Vance promotes his authority. So we tried to play in another killing way with jokes. So we had the data set of the museum propaganda, and we tried to mimify it and make weird punchlines with it, but it remains propaganda. So basically we have a mix of the Zeppelin propaganda and cats. And you can make your postcard of many subjects. And we take the data and make the whole mechanics up to a payment system, like to make it for real. And it does those Zeppelin birthday cards or like, yeah. The other stuff that we do with it is we have an education program that works where we do entertainment parks with vocational kids in high schools. We did 3 for the moment. What is interesting with AI and that, so we use the same infrastructure of gamification, but what is interesting is that we work with them to accelerate what they can do at a lower cost. So basically we can build interactive installation, or we do clay to movie or stuff like that quite quick, and with that velocity, we can integrate institutions with those entertainment parks. They make robots, provide ideas and stuff, and then we make them being hired by the entertainment park. So instead of having a vocabulary by the museum, that's the contract. So instead of a vocabulary that would be political of our involvement with the kids, that is not the era. I guess it's not anymore the era we are in. We have a vocabulary that is research and technology, which is the era where we fit a social work and makes it easily to distribute. So that's also the argument we use. We hide under AI social activities, which is what authoritarian regimes want to defend. But it's funny because it gives them competencies for jobs, jobs in the museum for maintenance, network, and knowledge like that. And also it augments the level of production they can have and makes them believe they can do. So it's not too stupid as a result in that case. And the rest, I don't know. That's mostly what we do.
Thank you. Thank you, Neil. Thank you, Anna.